Hi, so I'm going to try to work through the first 5 problems on this paper that has two-step equations. And I'm going to be using the slate. It'll be a little different than what we're used to. And my goal is to do 5 problems and then in a separate video do the last 3. So here we go. Problem number 1 is what you would see your most typical problem. It's probably going to be the simplest that we'll give, and it will be the most often one you'll see on your state test. We're going to start with drawing a line down the equal sign and the total line and bringing that equal sign down a couple of times. We're going to find the variable, and once I've identified it, I'm going to box in the entire side of the expression all the way to the equal sign with the variable. Third step says I'm to circle my variable and its multiply and divide partner and bring it down. And so I'm going to bring my 2x down to take care of later. That means I have gotten rid of this part of my box. Now I need to address in the inverse operation of subtract 5, I'm going to add 5. And -5 plus 5 cancel out, but what I do on one side, I need to do on the other. So if I added 5 to the left of my equal sign, I need to add a 5 to the right. So I end up with -12. Now I'm left with 2 times a number is -12, and this means to multiply, and the opposite of multiply is divide. And divide by 2 on both sides, and I'm finally left with x equals, and -12 divided by 2 is -6. And so I think this is going to work good, except my pen is having a hard time writing from my slate. Let's try one more problem, and then I'll decide if I want to switch slates. Okay, so as just like the other, I'm still going to start by drawing an equal sign, line down. I'm going to bring my equal sign down at least twice. These are two-step equations, so I need 2 steps down there. And as I'm setting up, I need to find my variable, box in the entire side of the equation with it, circle the variable and its multiplier divide partner, and bring it down. All of this setup really helps a lot. Now I'm ready to actually start solving. I need to move this 4 2/10 out. So the opposite of plus 4 2/10 is subtract 4 2/10. So I'm going to subtract 4 2/10 from 3 1/2. Well, think about that. I know when I subtract, and I am going to subtract these because my signs are different. This is a positive and that's a negative. When signs are different, you subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So you can use your calculator and you can put in 4.2 minus 3 1/2 and use 3.5. I'm going to write it here to the side, 4.2 and 3.5, subtract and get 0.7. And my bigger sign was on my negative, so 0.7 negative. Now, my variable still has a divide by 3 attached to it, and I want to get it alone. So the opposite of divide by 3 is if I multiply by 3. Now, I don't have to put this 1 underneath the 3, but when you start learning to multiply by 3, be sure that you write it up high or you write it really big. So multiply by 3 over here and get -2 1/10. So x is equal to -2 1/10. All right, so we're making some pretty good time here. I don't know, as you create the videos, you can't tell how far along you are. And so besides having problems with the slate, it's not too bad. Let's look at the next problem. And let's go with a nice bright red. I'm going to start by drawing my line down the equal sign and a total line, boxing in my expression that holds the variable, circling the variable and its multiplying divide partner, and dropping it down to work with later. Here's a hint, guys. When you have a fraction with your variable, write it up high. I'll tell you why in a minute. Okay, so that's gone. Now I just have this plus 4. That's right. Subtract 4 from both sides. Oh, I forgot to bring down my equal signs. 1 minus 4 is -3. Now here we go. So right here you can see that this fraction, 3/5, being multiplied to x. So if I was to divide by 3/5, fraction divided by fraction, we solve by multiplying the reciprocal. Do you remember that? Even if you didn't, you could go back to Interactive Notebook and look it up, or you can research it, you can Google it. Fraction divided by fraction, you multiply the reciprocal. So that means on both sides, I need to multiply by 5/3. That cancels out, and that cancels out, and it leaves my x by itself. And -3 times 5 is -15. And that's 1 times 3 is 3. And -15 divided by 3 is -5. Now, don't be mad at me, but watch. I'm going to erase all of this because I'm going to actually show you another way to do this that I truly believe is better. So here, remember I said when you write your fraction that it was better, to write your fraction and then put your x up by your 3? Here's why. My kids over the years would much rather prefer to do this in steps. And where they see this divide by 5, they say they know to multiply by 5 on both sides and get 15 and bring down the 3x because they have a whole 3x left because the 5's crossed out. And then divide by 3 to get x. Divide by 3. Oops, that was a -15. And -15 divided by 3 is -5. They would rather do it in 2 steps. And if you would, you're going to see that from me. Either way works. Let's look at problem number 4. 2 4/5 minus x equals 9. I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be easier to change this 4/5 into a decimal. So I'm going to start by boxing in the expression, line and total, bring down the equal signs. 2 4/5 is the same thing as 2.8. And since this is a positive, I'm going to subtract it. Subtract 2.8, and that would be like a 9.0. So that crosses out, and I have nothing but -x. Don't forget to include the symbol in front of that x, because now I have like a negative ghost 1 x. Here, I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to end up with 6.2. And so I have -x equals 6.2. Well, I can't have a -x. So I can multiply by -1 or divide by -1 to make the two negatives. I'm just going to say a negative times a negative is a positive. And I'm going to times this by a negative. 6.2 times a negative is a -6.2. Pretty good, right? You holding in there? If you have any questions, raise your hand. Ask your teacher to come over and explain for you. I love it when my kids specifically say, will you work another problem like this for me? And so that's real handy. Okay, remember, what does it mean when you have a number with a set of parentheses? This means to do what? Multiply. So guess which we're going to do first? That's right. Because we're doing PEMDAS backwards. Instead of doing the parentheses first, we're going to do this multiplication step first. And so we're going to divide by 6 on both sides and end up with n plus 3 equals -1. Then all we have to do is subtract 3 from both sides. End up with n equals -4. Again, if you need help with your integers, you should really be working on your Mastering Math Facts, and there's a lot of fun online games that help you practice your integers. I don't know where our time is at, but let's look maybe at doing problem number 6 before our 10-minute limit is up. Draw a line down the equal sign and a total line. Bring down some equal signs. Oh, 30 seconds. I can't get much done in 30 seconds, but maybe I can get the setup done. There we go. Circle the variable and its multiply divide partner. -3/4. I can put my b up high. All right, I'm ready for this setup for the next video, and thanks for listening. Okay, so I'm back with part 2. I have a different pen. Let's see if this one helps a little bit. We left off where we had dropped our -3, 4 and our variable b down for the second level. And that looks a little bit like a 6. So if I can make it look as cursive as possible, that helps. And that eliminates this for now. So I'm stuck with this -5. So I'm going to do the opposite of adding 5. Switching pens did not help, but 6 plus 5 is 11. That's true. So now, remember what I said. You can do this two different ways. You can multiply this by 4/3, -4/3 on both sides, or you can do what my kids prefer, multiply by 4 first, and just bring down -3b, multiply by 4 over here and get 44. Then divide by -3 on both sides. That gives you b equals negative, let's see, that would go once, be 14 and 2/3. So b equals -14 and 2/3. So I certainly hope everything works out good. Let me tell you, as a teacher, it's completely possible that I can make mistakes and later I'll go back and be like, oh, and I didn't have anybody to catch me when I did that. I just did it quick in my head. It's a lot of pressure. All right, let's look here. This is nice. This will be easy. The only thing that's really different about this question is that when we draw the line down the equal sign in our total line, when we box in the expression with the variable, it's on the right-hand side. That's it, guys. And decimals are not a problem because you get to use a calculator. So I'm going to bring down my variable y and its multiply or divide partner of 1.5. This says -1.5, so I'm going to add 1.5 to both sides. What you do on one side, you do on the other. That eliminates. -6 and +1.5. Signs are different, so I'm going to subtract and get 4.5. Ugh, did not bring down my equal signs. There we go. I get 4.5, but I have more negatives than positives, so it's -4.5. So then I'm trying to get y by itself. So I'm going to divide by 1.5. This is being multiplied, so I'll divide. And -4.5 divided by 1.5 is a -3. That one was really pretty simple. Let's look at this one. Draw the line down the equal sign and the total line. Okay, normally I would box everything in here, but it's really not a two-step equation. Well, it is. I'm not sure that boxing that in works for me because I have -4/3 times this, and I know the first thing that I need to do is divide by -4/3. I can't put that off until later. So remember what happens when you divide by a fraction? Yep, that's right. You're really multiplying by the reciprocal. So in order to divide by 4/3, I'm actually going to multiply by 3/4, -3/4. That gets rid of this. So only thing I'm bringing down is a plus 6. Okay, so I have, if I multiply by 3/4 here, I'm multiplying by 3/4 on this side and bringing down my -2. I don't know why I put the dot there. So -2 times 3/4, bring down my equal sign. Okay, this is like over 1. So this is like, oh, I'm going to cross reduce as well. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice. -1 times 3 is -3, and 1 times 2 is 2. Looking at this, I'm going to keep my line going here. Okay, I'm going to multiply by 2 on this side. Ka-ching! Just have my -3 there. So I'm going to multiply times 2 here. Yeah, I'm wasting your time here. So I can tell you to do different. Let's go ahead and distribute this. That means this 2 is going to go to both of these terms. So 2 times A is 2A. 2 times 6 is 12. Don't think I saved any time doing it this way. Ugh, I bet you I will end up doing this video over again. So let's talk about a different way to do this that's easier. A lot of ways I can do this. And I want you to know, I'm going to go ahead and bring this down to bring down my equal sign. I think I'm going to distribute this A. So this term needs to be multiplied to both terms. So negative 4/3 A is negative 4/3 A. And then negative 4/3 times 6. So if I put 4/3 times 6, I end up with 8. So I end up with negative 4/3 A plus, and then a negative times negative 4/3 times 6 equals a negative 8. And so plus a negative is the same thing as minus 8. This is an ugly problem. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. This would be 6. This would be negative 4/3 A. And I'm going to have to say, I'm going to multiply by 3 and get 18 equals negative 4A divided by negative 4. A equals negative 4 1/2. I'm thinking in my head, if that was reduced to 9/2, right, negative 9/2, that would be, yeah, 4 1/2. All right, that was hairy and either needs to be changed or is too hard for 7th grade math. I'll think about it.